They left me here 3 days ago. I know, because I counted the stains on the ceiling panels again this morning, 42 in total. One of them looks like a heart, if you tilt your head just right. Another one is shaped like Ohio. I'm not from there, but my late wife was. Her name was Eleanor. She used to trace shapes in the sky and laugh like she was still 17. God, I miss that sound. 3 days. No phone call. No visit. No one even asked if I needed a change of clothes. Just a faded hospital gown, a dry turkey sandwich, and a nurse named Daniel who treats me like I'm a piece of old furniture that someone forgot in the hallway. They said they were going to get the car. James, my son. My own son. I held him the day he was born. He had colic for the first 3 months. I walked him around the living room at 3 a.m. every night. My back never fully recovered, but I never once complained. They said it was a routine checkup. Just some blood work and an MRI to make sure the dizzy spells weren't something serious. James sat next to me in the car, checking emails on his phone the whole way, and I thought, he's busy. He's important. He's got a family to feed. So I didn't say much. At the hospital, they signed the forms too fast. I should have seen it coming. That nurse, Daniel, looked at me with pity when they handed him the clipboard. And then they left. I'll be right back, Dad, James said. It's been 78 hours. The hospital hasn't discharged me. They say they're still waiting for family contact. What a joke. The doctor visited yesterday. Dr. Claire Montoya. Young, too young to be so certain about things. She had that calm, patronizing tone that people use with the elderly when they assume we're hard of hearing and stupid. I understand your family needed to step away, Mr. Thompson. But you're in good hands here. No. I'm not. I'm in the hands of a system that forgets people once they stop being useful. A system that lets a retired U.S. history teacher sit in a corner like a bag of old laundry, waiting for a son who isn't coming back. Funny thing is, I used to be somebody. I taught history for 37 years at Jefferson High. Kids used to thank me at graduation. One even hugged me so hard I dropped my clipboard. Parents wrote letters. Mr. Thompson changed my son's life, they'd say. I saved a few of those letters. They're in a shoebox in the garage. I wonder if James threw it out when he downsized my house. You're not safe living alone, Dad, he said 2 weeks ago. It's not responsible. Not responsible. I survived Vietnam. I coached the varsity debate team for 12 seasons straight. I taught 500 teenagers how the Constitution was born and why it matters. And suddenly I'm not responsible enough to make my own tea without a warning label. On the second night, I asked Nurse Daniel for my phone. He looked surprised. You still remember your passcode? He asked. I nodded. Of course I do. It's Eleanor's birthday. July 3, 1950. You don't forget the day your whole life began. I called James. Straight to voicemail. I left a message. Hey, son. Just checking in. Hope everything's all right. I'm still here, at the hospital. No call back. They think I won't fight this. They think I'll quietly fade into the mattress and wait to die. But they're wrong. I've spent 3 days staring at a ceiling full of shapes, listening to the beeps of other people's regrets echo down the hallway. And something inside me is changing. I'm tired of being polite. I'm tired of saying, I understand, when I don't. And above all, I'm tired of pretending this is okay. James, if you're listening, you've made a mistake. I may be old. But I'm not gone. Not yet. I wrote the letter the way I used to write lessons, slow, clear, and with purpose. Every word meant something. Every sentence built toward a truth. I wasn't writing to James. I was writing about him. About the day he asked me to sign those retirement documents, and told me it was just paperwork to help with taxes. About the power of attorney form tucked between birthday cards and insurance mail. About how he slowly made me invisible in my own life. You won't have to worry about anything anymore, Dad. That's what he said. But I worry every night. I worry because I hear how the nurses talk. I hear the code words: non-compliant, uncooperative, cognitively declining. The system doesn't care if you're right. It cares if you're quiet. So I stopped being quiet. Linda, the social worker, came in again. Clipboard in hand, smile professionally affixed. "Mr. Thompson, I have a few options for." I raised a hand. Slowly. With intent. "Before you decide where I'll spend the rest of my life, I'd like to make a phone call." Her smile twitched. "You've already left several voicemails." "Not to my lawyer." That shut her up. "I don't have a lawyer." "Not yet. But I know how to speak like someone who does." That was part of the job, teaching kids how power works, how words shape worlds. You'd be surprised how many forget that once your hair goes gray. She nodded stiffly. "Of course. I'll have someone bring you a phone." She didn't come back that day. Around midnight, I took out the letter again and read it under the flickering hallway light that spilled in through the half-closed door. I'd written down everything. Not just facts, but memories. The last Christmas we spent together. The time James forgot Eleanor's birthday and blamed it on stress. The way his voice changed when he talked to me after she died, like I was an overdue bill he hadn't figured out how to pay. I included all of it. Not for pity. But for proof. Because this story doesn't end in a hospital bed. It ends in court, or it ends in silence, but either way, it will end with dignity. The next day, a new nurse came in. African-American woman, late 40s. Her name tag said, Nora. She looked me in the eye when she spoke, which already made her rare. "You need anything, Mr. Thompson?" I hesitated. Then, a real phone. Not a hospital line. She looked at me a second too long. "Burner phone." I blinked. She grinned. "My dad was like you. Smart. Paranoid. Usually right." An hour later, she slid a small black flip phone under my blanket. No cameras, no internet. Just numbers and guts. I almost cried. Not because of the phone. But because someone saw me. Not as a burden. Not as a diagnosis. But as a man. That night, I made the call. "Stein and Beckman, attorneys at law, how may I direct your call?" "My name is Richard Thompson. I'd like to speak to someone about elder exploitation." A pause. Then, "One moment, sir." The line clicked. A deeper voice answered. "This is Jonah Beckman. Can I ask who referred you?" "No one. But I'm a retired teacher. 37 years. And I still know how to make a case." There was a pause. "Go ahead, Mr. Thompson." So I did. All of it. When I hung up, I stared at the ceiling again. The heart-shaped stain was still there. But now it looked different. Now, it looked like armor. It's strange how quickly the world stops looking you in the eye when you're old. As if age were a fog and you're the shadow moving inside it, half there, half past. But I remember everything. I remember the sound chalk makes when it hits the blackboard too hard. I remember the day Eleanor wore a red scarf to my classroom and all the boys in the back row stopped pretending to care about the Civil War. I remember standing on the steps of Jefferson High, watching generations of students move like rivers through its hallways. I wasn't just a teacher. I was a lighthouse. Now. They write fall risk on my chart in red ink. Funny how quickly they reduce a man. Linda returned today. Different tone this time. Tighter. Less honey. "I understand you've been in contact with an attorney." "I have," I said, evenly. She sat. "No clipboard this time. I'm just going to be honest, Mr. Thompson. Pursuing legal action in your condition could be stressful. Your memory might not hold up under questioning. I taught 12-year-olds the difference between the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution," I said. "I think I'll manage." She flinched slightly. It was subtle, but I saw it. They'd misjudged me. Again. I smiled, just a little. "You know," I added, "history is filled with people who underestimated the old men in the corner." That night, I stared at my reflection in the dark window. Wrinkled skin. Yellow eyes. The remains of a beard I stopped caring to trim. But behind all that, I still saw him. Not the teacher. Not the patient. The father. The one who stood outside James's high school in the rain because his son had forgotten a ride. The one who took a second job at the bookstore when college bills came in. The one who never once raised a hand in anger, even when every nerve begged for release. I was never perfect. But I was present. And now, he was gone. Or maybe he was hiding. Waiting. The next morning, Jonah Beckman called. "We reviewed your documents," he said. "You have a case, Mr. Thompson. A strong one." I felt it like thunder in my ribs. "Will it matter?" He paused. "Yes. It will. But not just legally. It'll make a point. People like your son get away with this because most victims never speak." I nodded, even though he couldn't see. "I want to speak," I said. "But not just in court." "Go on." "I want a letter. From me to him. Not angry. Not bitter. Just the truth." Jonah didn't argue. "You write it. I'll make sure he gets it." So I wrote. Not on hospital stationery, but on real paper. Nora smuggled it in for me, said her dad would have wanted that. I began like this. "Dear James. You don't get to choose the man I was. Only the men you became. I raised you with patience. You left me with silence. That's a decision that will echo long after I'm gone. But this is not a letter of blame. It's a letter of memory. And memory, James, is the sharpest blade the old still carry." I didn't cry when I signed it. I just felt still. Not numb. Still. The kind of still you feel before something important begins. He came on a Tuesday. I knew it was him before I saw his face. I heard his walk in the hallway, fast, impatient, the same rhythm he had when he was late for school and blamed the clock. Some habits never die. James stopped at the door. For a moment, he didn't come in. He just stood there, watching me like I might accuse him out loud. Or worse, like I might forgive him. "Dad," he said finally. Not hi. Not how are you feeling. Just Dad. "As you can see," I replied, "I'm still alive." He winced. "Good. Pain means something still works." "I've been busy," he said. "Things got complicated." "They always do," I said. "That's when character shows." He sighed and stepped inside. Sat in the chair Eleanor once sat in when I was sick years ago. "Funny how furniture remembers." "I got a call from a lawyer," he said. "They said you're claiming I abandoned you." I tilted my head. "Did you?" Silence stretched between us. "I did what was best," he said finally. "You weren't safe alone. You were confused." I leaned forward. Slow. Careful. Deliberate. "I was grieving," I said. "There's a difference. One you might learn someday, if anyone stays long enough to teach you." His jaw tightened. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under," he snapped. "Kids. Mortgage. Work. I can't be your nurse too." I nodded. "You're right." He blinked. "I am." "You're not my nurse," I said. "You're my son. Or you were. And sons don't leave their fathers in hospitals without a goodbye." His eyes flicked away. I could see it then, the crack. The first real one. He pulled the letter from his coat pocket. "I read it," he said quietly. "Good. You made me sound like a villain." "I made you sound like yourself." He stood abruptly. "What do you want from me?" That was the moment. The old me, the man who fixed everything, who swallowed his pride, who apologized first, he rose up inside my chest. And then he sat back down. "I want nothing," I said. That frightened him more than anger ever could. "I've already given you what you deserve." "What's that?" he asked. "My memory," I said. "My testimony." And the truth. He stared at me, searching for rage. He found peace instead. You taught me once, I continued, that history doesn't punish immediately. It waits. And when it speaks, it doesn't shout. It just records. I watched it land. James left without another word. No hug. No apology. But something followed him out. The version of me he controlled. That evening, Dr. Montoya returned. We're reevaluating your discharge plan, she said. With legal counsel involved, you'll be returning home. With support services of your choosing. Home. The word settled gently in my chest. That night, I poured myself a cup of tea. Just one. I sat alone at a table once meant for 6. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel small. I moved back into my house the following Thursday. Not the big old one Eleanor filled with curtains and cinnamon, but the smaller place James found for me after she passed. The one he said was more manageable. Funny word, manageable. As if I were a burden to be contained. But this time, I walked through that front door on my own 2 feet. A nurse helped with groceries, but I carried the box with the tea set. Eleanor's. The one he left behind. Probably thought it wasn't worth anything. He was wrong. I sat it on the kitchen counter and ran my hand along the worn porcelain. Chips on the rim. Cracks like veins in old skin. But it held. So did I. I hired a woman named Claudia to come by 3 times a week. Not to care for me, but to care with me. Big difference. She makes me laugh. Calls me Mr. T even though I told her 100 times it makes me sound like a wrestler. I don't correct her anymore. She treats me like someone worth remembering. A few weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. Careless penmanship. From James. Dad. I've been thinking about everything. I don't know what to say. I messed up. I know I did. The lawyer said you don't want anything from me. Not even money. Not even a visit. But I'd like to come by. If that's okay. I read it twice. Then a 3rd time. I didn't cry. I just folded it and placed it next to Eleanor's tea set. No reply. Not yet. Because forgiveness is a door you open. Not one they kick down and walk through. And I'm not ready. Maybe I never will be. And that's all right. Some nights, I sit by the window with a blanket across my lap and a notebook in hand. Not because I forget things. But because I remember too much. Memory is a heavy gift. But it's mine. I write about the students. The ones who made me proud. The ones who needed more time. The ones who came back years later and said, "You saved my life, Mr. Thompson." James never did. But that doesn't mean I failed. It means he did. And that failure is his to carry, not mine to fix. A reporter came by last week. Local paper. Heard about the case, an elderly man, betrayed by his son, but fought back with nothing but letters and memory. She asked if I had a final message for the readers. I thought for a moment. Then I said. Age doesn't erase value. It reveals who respected it. She liked that. So did I. So now I wait. Not for James. Not for justice. Just for the next day. The next sunrise. The next sip of tea. Because I'm still here. And that's the quietest revenge of all.
Subscribe and like. And tell your friends about this video.